Hi friends, Krista here. Thank you so much for stopping by Books and Jams. I'm so glad that you are here to hang out with me for a little bit. Today we're going to be doing a shelf spotlight. Shelf spotlights are a series of videos that I do where I highlight different books that are on my shelves. I usually pick a different theme or topic or type of book. And last month I used the Buzzwordathon prompt for January, and I'm kind of going along with that for now and using the Buzzwordathon prompt for March. So I'm getting a little ahead. So maybe one of these books is something that you'd want to pick up if you're participating in that Buzzwordathon challenge. For those of you who don't know, Buzzwordathon was originally created by Kayla from Books and Lala, and she used to do it as a readathon, a 1-week readathon where she would pick a word or a prompt or idea, and you would find books that fit that and read them throughout the week. It has now morphed or changed into a bigger challenge where there's not a specific set time that you have to read these books. She just gives a prompt for each month. There is a Goodreads group that I will link in the description below. I'm kind of taking this as a yearly challenge, and throughout the year I would like to accomplish each of the 12 different prompts, but I'm not necessarily doing them in the month that they come up. So for March, the Buzzwordathon prompt is to read a book with a place name in the title. And I have a lot of books here to share with you. Most of them are historical fiction. So I have 5 that I have read already that stayed on my shelves, and then a ton more that I have not yet read. So let's just jump right in. The 5 that I have read, I'll start with those. And I will start with probably my favorite of this stack, which is A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. It's set during the time when the Russian Revolution was happening, and Count Rostov was a wealthy man who was stripped of everything that he owns, and he was sentenced to live his life out in the Metropole Hotel in Moscow, Russia. This is kind of a character study of this man because we follow him through decades of living in this hotel, but it's really about found family and belonging and kindness. And I just absolutely fell in love with the Count in this book, and I thought that he was a fantastic character. I am not typically a character-driven reader. I like there to be a lot of action and plot, like a propulsive plot in the books that I read. However, when there's a character that you can just absolutely fall in love with, I apparently don't mind because I loved this book very, very much. Another book that I loved was The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society by Mary Ann Schaefer and Annie Barrows. I loved this book. It's a World War II historical fiction epistolary novel, so it's all written in letters. And this woman journalist begins writing with this man who lives on Guernsey and starts to learn about this literary club that they started in the midst of World War II when their island was occupied by the Germans. There are some moments that could be very heavy. However, it's done in a way that is, I don't want to say light and fluffy, but there are humorous moments, and it's just so heartfelt, that I really just loved this book so much and would highly recommend it. Another one that I read quite a while ago was Brooklyn by Colm Toibin. And in this one, we follow an Irish girl who comes to America and lives in Brooklyn. And we learn about the life of Irish immigrants during that time, and as well as her kind of coming of age during this huge move to a totally different country. It's kind of a quiet novel, which isn't always my thing. And I didn't always agree with the decisions that our main character was making, but I really did enjoy this overall. And for some reason, it just stayed on my shelves. I haven't wanted to get rid of it. So there it is, Brooklyn, obviously a place in New York City. I have Last Christmas in Paris by Hazel Gaynor and Heather Webb. This is another epistolary novel, and it is set during World War I rather than World War II. And this sister starts writing to her brother and her brother's friend who go off to war. And there is a bit of a romance in here as well, but it is their correspondence back and forth during World War I. Really enjoyed that one as well. And the final one that I have read is The Star-Crossed Sisters of Tuscany by Laurie Nelson Spielman. This one involves a family that has been cursed where the second-born daughters are not going to find love, basically. And so these 2 second-born daughters, cousins, go with an aunt of theirs to Italy to kind of track down the source of this curse and have this big experience. Tuscany is a big part of it. Italy, the road trip, the travel is a big part of the story, but it's also about family and love and heart. And it was lovely. I remember buddy reading this one in the summertime, and I really enjoyed it. The Star-Crossed Sisters of Tuscany. Let me do my non-Paris stack, because I have 7 books that have Paris in the title. I could have just done the video about those ones, but I'm going to do the non-Paris ones first, and I think I have 7 here for that as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I do. So we have The Cottingley Secret, also by Hazel Gaynor. She's the same author as The Last Christmas in Paris. She's an author that writes historical fiction that I really enjoy. This one takes place in Cottingley, England in 1917 and also present day. In the 1917 timeline, that's like right in the midst of World War I. And these 2 cousins are young, playful. One of them is gifted a camera. They're taking pictures all over. And one of them claims that she took pictures of fairies. And then in the present day timeline, Olivia has inherited her grandfather's bookshop and she comes across these pictures and these 2 timelines intersect. I'm very eager to read this one. It sounds really good. Apparently, epistolary novels like to put the titles of places in their books, because this is another epistolary novel, Letters from Skye by Jessica Brockmole. I've had this on my shelves for quite a while. I'm not sure why I haven't picked it up yet. This one sounds so sweet. It takes place in Scotland on the Isle of Skye for part of it, but this young poet in 1912, she's a published poet, which is not super normal. She's kind of lived a quiet life in her island, and she gets a fan letter from a young man in America, David, and they start corresponding with each other. And then we also kind of move into World War II, 1940, and her mother falls in love with a Royal Air Force pilot. And at one point, a bomb goes off and her mother disappears, and Elspeth has to decide, is she going to stay in her comfort zone? Is she going to go look for her mother? I think there's some family secrets, but throughout all of that, she's corresponding with this man, David, who's a college student in America. So that sounds really good. Very sweet. I have The Chilbury Ladies Choir by Jennifer Ryan, which is about a group of women who continue the choir even though the men have gone off to war, is what I believe. It takes place in Chilbury, England, in the early days of World War II. Sounds good. I love books that have music as a part of it. Light Over London by Julia Kelly is another World War II historical fiction. Kara is an antiques dealer and she's in the present day. She finds the relics of a lost relationship, a diary from World War II, and a photo of a young woman in uniform. And then we go back in time to 1941 and we learn about this woman in the photograph. Sounds very good. This next one was one of my Christmas book exchange books, and it's The Bookseller of Kabul. This one is about a brave young man who owns a bookshop in Kabul and sells books that he's really not supposed to the people of Kabul. And I'm very interested in reading that one. I have 2 books that are about the town of Aleppo in Syria. Escape from Aleppo and The Beekeeper of Aleppo. This is my only middle grade on this list. This is by N.H. Senzai, about a young girl who's a refugee from Aleppo. And then The Beekeeper of Aleppo is by Christy Lefteri. And I believe this is also going to be a hard-hitting. The beekeeper rises early to hear the call to prayer before driving to his hives in the countryside. On weekends, his wife, who's an artist, sells her paintings in Aleppo until the unthinkable happens. When all they love is destroyed by war, Nuri knows they have no choice except to leave their home. So it's going to be, again, a refugee story about Aleppo. And the last 7 books that I have all have the word Paris. They're all set in Paris. The first one is a nonfiction, Paris in Bloom. I have read New York in Bloom and loved it. I think I missed London in Bloom when it was on sale on Book Outlet. But this is by Georgiana Lane. And it's just a gorgeous walk through Paris in pictures of flowers and essays about different types of flowers and architecture and parks and things all around the city. And I'm very excited to glance through there. That'll be a nice springtime read. I have a Christian fiction, The Paris Dressmaker by Christy Cambrin. This one is Paris 1939 and Paris 1943. So based on true accounts of prisoners resisting Nazi occupation from fashion houses to the city streets, comes a story of 2 courageous women who risked everything to fight an evil they could not abide. So combining fashion with historical fiction in World War II. The Race for Paris by Meg Waite Clayton. Historical fiction about a journalist who is kind of not allowed to do what she really wants to do and get on the front lines of things and in the action because she is a woman, but she defies social norms and does it anyway. In Paris, World War II. I think it's World War II. Let me double check that. Normandy, 1944. Yeah, I mean, right in the heart of things. I have 2 by Natasha Lester. I have The Paris Seamstress, which is 1940 and present day. So another World War II fashion and fashion historical fiction. And then I also have The Paris Orphan by Natasha Lester, One Lost Little Girl, One American Soldier, and The Woman Who Braves the War to Save Them Both. Aw. This is A French Seamstress, A British Spy, an American Heiress, One Destiny That Begins in War-Torn France. So I'm excited to try out Natasha Lester. Let me know if you've read her books. I have The Paris Spy by Susan Elia McNeil. And I'm not going to read this right away because this is not the first in the series, I don't think. And this is a series of female spies in World War II. So I think the first one is Mr. Churchill's Secretary, but I do own that one. And finally, another World War II historical fiction, The Lost Girls of Paris by Pam Jenoff. One morning while passing through Grand Central Station on her way to work, Grace Healy finds an abandoned suitcase tucked beneath a bench. Unable to resist her curiosity, she opens up the suitcase where she discovers a dozen photographs, each of a different woman. In a moment of impulse, she takes the photographs and quickly leaves the station. And then she kind of tracks down, like, who are these women? Why was the suitcase left in Grand Central Terminal? And all of those things. It looks like it's going to be very interesting. I know people have really liked that one. So those are the books I could find on a quick search through my shelves. I think I have one sitting right here, Sugar Creek, Ohio. That's a place. I just grabbed a handful of books that have place names in the title. I think you could even broaden it out and go more general, like bookshop or garden, or those are all places too. Kitchen. Those are words that are in titles, but I had plenty of actual places, cities, and countries that I could talk about. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I would love to know if you've read any of these books, especially the books that I haven't yet read. Did you really like them? Did you not really care for them? I would love to chat with you about these books or anything else. Or if you have a favorite book that has a place name in the title, let me know what that is down in the comments below. I always love talking with you down there. And that is going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be talking with you in another video very soon. Bye.